Alrighty, here's my video on these Wilwood pedals with the brake bias adjuster on them. This is the, I don't even want to try and make it the technical terms, but it's the downward swing mount. So this would mount on the firewall, this is up on your dash, and then the pedals are going to come down and your steering wheel be up here. So this would be two master cylinders, 1, 2. In my case, I'm using these Wilwood master cylinders. They're probably the only ones that are really going to work, and you should probably just go with them. I know Tilton, a couple other companies make them. Some are actually more expensive, but like it's got this weird thread, and you have to have it match with these and the adjusters, so it kind of sucks. Just get all the Wilwood stuff. There's not really much jerry rigging involved in this. But it is nice because once you have this, I mean, you can take this out, you can put in another car, you get another project car. The stuff's going to last. It's got a nice warranty on it. So just do it. Just spend the money on it. I did. You'll have to. Grow up. So basically, this is your clutch. This is going to have a single one on it. So that's going to have your clutch reservoir. And then this is your brake pedal. I thought it was broken at first because it adjusts back and forth, but I didn't know how the brake bias adjusting worked. So, but now I do. 90% of your brake bias you want to be based off these master cylinders. It's really weird math. I don't quite understand it yet. I don't really do the math. I just kind of guessed. You want less pressure going to your rear brakes because you want most of your pressure on your front brakes. I'm not even going to try to explain it. I don't understand it. In my case, I'm putting these on a Crown Vic stock right now. These seemed like they'd be a good size based off what people are saying. At least for the front brakes. I don't really look into the rear brakes. But I kind of figured if I'm going to be putting the pressure of a 7/8 into my front brakes, which is a 2-piston caliper, and they're both, let's say 1 1/4, I forget, or 1 3/4 inch pistons. The rear has 2 single piston calipers, which are only 1 3/4 inch piston. So it's half the volume. I figure I go with the same master cylinder. It has half the braking power right off the bat. And I figure that's a good place to start. Of course, you can always swap these out and get new ones, yada, yada. So like, it's not that big of a deal to me. Obviously, these things are like around $90, so it's not ideal. But these should also work, say I swap over to 6-piston 4 GT calipers or GT500 calipers. This should also be what I need for that. So I think it's a good place to start. It should provide me, usually pretty much always your front is probably going to be like a 7/8 from what I've seen on everyone using. Enough of that because I don't know what I'm talking about. As far as this goes, it's just for me because I don't want to do the math even though I could. I'm gonna find out. I'm gonna try it out. I'm gonna find out. I might be wrong. So what? I'll be wrong. I'll have to get new ones. Learn. Basically how this works. I had to look up a video on it because I didn't quite understand it. Is you want these, so this needs to be the width of these 2 studs here. So when you get them in the car, you'll have to adjust that first. That's your starting point. Because that'll make sure that these shafts from the cylinders are lined up and you're not kinking them over, causing wear, and it's going to make it a lot harder to adjust these. So you start off, it tells you in the book, in the paperwork in here, but you set it as wide as this so that these are perfectly lined up. If you don't do that, the brake bias adjuster isn't going to work. And you're also, so this one you'd set first, because this one's got a locking nut on it, so this one won't spin. Basically, you set the distance from here to this. In here, there's a bearing. You make sure that these are both equal distances from the bearing so that the bearing is centered up perfectly in here. It's supposed to move left and right. That's how the bias adjusting works. When you want to adjust the pedals, you'll loosen up that stop there so you can actually move them. And you'll loosen this up. And when you tighten it, it'll pull that bearing left or right, and you're changing the fulcrum of where these 2 pivot, and that's what provides you your adjust in bias. I watched this Tilton video and they were like, it's 4% change or 2% change per turn or something. I can't remember, but adjusting that bearing is what gives you your change in bias. I know Wilwood sells a thing that attaches onto here and then gives you a knob that you can run to your dash and you can adjust it on the fly. It seems like it's kind of cheap plastic, but I know a lot of people run them. You can also, say you do like a single master cylinder, or you just set these perfectly 50-50. They do have a remote, what are those called, proportioning valve, and you can run a remote from that to do quick adjusting. In all honesty, you'll rarely ever need to adjust your braking bias on the go. So set it good, set it right, you know, drive it around, be safe. But yeah, that's how that works. They do sell, it's like a $200 billet plate that would mount to your firewall. You cut out the circular section of the firewall and then mount this in, and that plate mounts to the firewall. It gives you a really nice place to bolt these up. I don't know if I'll end up going that way. I'll have to try and mount these first. Kind of cheap. I might just, if it's not flat enough, cut it out, weld a metal plate there, cut some holes in it to give me what I need. Because honestly, $200 for a mounting plate, kind of ridiculous. Other things. They say you want the brake pedal to the right of the steering column, which makes sense. I looked at my own car, and hey, the brake pedal is to the right, probably so you can do right foot braking. Only reason I could see you'd want it to be towards the left would be for doing left foot braking, which I don't even know. I'm not a professional. These pedals do have adjustment left or right. So if you want them close together, if you want one close to the gas pedal, you can see you would just use these screws, these 4 right here, instead of the middle 4. I'm just going to set them up right like this for now. Anything else? Oh yeah, there's reinforcement. You do not just trust your firewall. It's not strong enough. Go from your dash, make some little legs from this. Give yourself a little extra support because you're going to be pushing on these a lot harder than you used to. Especially with manual braking, you need it. Need to set up a support here under your dash so you have 2 points of contact, not just the thin firewall. You actually have some actual support for the pedals. Overall, everything's pretty good quality. It's kind of finicky getting to understand it. It's really complicated. That's why, you know, not everyone's running them. But I think this is going to work for me. Again, I pointed out in my last video on the slave cylinder. With the Wilwood pull type slave, gotta have a 3/4 inch for this. So that's what you're going to use for most anyways, is a 3/4 inch. Don't be like me and mount these on here right away because you're going to have to take it off to get it on there anyways. So, but at least I can look at everything. It's all shiny. You adjust your pedal height, so how far the pedals stick out with the screws on the masters. They rotate, and that screws it in, so it brings the pedal lower, or if you loosen it, push the pedal out. They say for these, just watch the Tilton. I didn't find a Wilwood video first. I found the Tilton video first. They say your front brakes are supposed to stick out a little bit farther, so be like pushed ahead a little bit more. I don't know. I'll figure it out. But yeah, so that's the Wilwood pedals. I know there's a few videos out there, but it's like, hey, I've already got them installed, and you know, you don't really know what to do. So there you go.